Well, here we are live on Amazon. D. Scott here from Oregon and talking across country, well, to the middle, to Houston. With Fern
Texas.
Brady, who is the author of United Vidden. And It is highlighted in the carousel, so I encourage you, click on the book, take a look, click on it. You can read a couple of the first chapters there. I tell you, you are going to get engaged right away and get drawn into. She didn't just create a story; she created a whole universe. And we were talking briefly in the green room beforehand. Fern, this is a pretty ambitious project. But let's talk a little bit about who you are and what's going on in your world.
Oh, well, I'm Fern Brady, and I am a writer. That's, my first love and has been my love since forever. And here in Houston, Texas, I started back in 8 years ago, 2013. We started a small press called Inklings Publishing. So we are a traditional publisher. We publish a variety of different books. Different genres. We're a full house publisher. And then I'm involved with the Houston Writers Guild. We are a nonprofit organization that, brings conferences and workshops and different opportunities for the writing community, critique groups, everything that will help support writers on their journey. And so that's kind of some of the things I'm involved with. I'm involved with Nanowrimo and other organizations in the literary community, working with as many people as we can to bring people together and to form a community.
And Nanowrimo is coming right up. So for those people who don't know what that is, can you share a little bit about that and how people can get involved?
Sure. So National Novel Writing Month is Nanowrimo. It's an organization that is a nonprofit, national. I don't even know how many years they've done it. It's been for many, many years they've been around. And basically the month of November has been designated as the National Novel Writing Month. And during the month of November, people work towards getting 50,000 words written, draft, fresh draft of a project. And so if you go to nanowrimo.org is their website, and you sign up, you create your free account, and you post your project, your goal for National Novel Writing Month. And in November 1st, we actually host a little get together at around 10-11 p.m. in the Zoom room this year, again, for the pandemic situation, but sometimes we get to do it in person. And we, at midnight, everybody just, stops chatting and starts writing. And so we start writing on November the 1st. And and you write 50,000 words in a month. And so that's a good sized book. For some of us who write in certain genres, that's like only about halfway through the actual novel.
Yeah, because United Vidden is a few more than 50,000 words.
Quite a bit more. It's at 127,000. So, and it's a pretty good amount for sci-fi.
Absolutely. Well, I love it because you really did create a whole universe, and maybe someone in NaNoWriMo will be able to kind of create a universe, but at least you can get started. For those people who have just felt like they had something inside them, as I often say, this is the greatest time ever to be alive, because if you want to write a book, you can write a book, and there's support groups out there that this is a national organization. You'll be able to join in with other folks, get some ideas, get some inspiration, but really get some encouragement, and be able to put pen to paper, right?
Yes, and the real goal with the NaNoWriMo is to move away from the pressure of having it perfect, right?
Mm,
As a writer, you worry about, is it perfect? Is it great? And you have to
yeah.
put that aside, and you have to write. You have to write the story, and every writer will tell you the first draft is nothing more than really an outline. You're basically telling yourself the story,
Hmm.
by the time that it reaches the point where it can go live on Amazon and be an actual physical book, it's going to go through very many revisions and different iterations, and you're going to have developmental editors that you work with. You're going to have critique groups that you might work with,
Hmm.
partners, and it's going to be molded, and it's going to be fleshed out, and it's going to become something really awesome. But the first draft, just
Hmm.
spilling the words onto the paper, is the
Yeah.
critical point. A lot of writers get stuck there. A lot of writers don't ever push past that first draft because they're trying to get it right the first time, and
Right. Yeah.
you just got to be okay with messiness in that first draft. It's just got to be a vomity messy mess.
I don't. Yeah. I don't, we can't all be Lewis Carroll. So I understand when he wrote, when he handwriting, right, his manuscripts, not one cross out, not one change. It was, I don't know how he did it.
Yeah, I mean, those kinds of talents, and you have Mozart, right?
Mm,
In the music industry and stuff. You have those occasional, like, really prodigy, gifted people. But also, I have to wonder sometimes, even if they had gone through some revisions too, maybe
oh
it would
yeah,
have been even better. Because
absolutely.
no matter how good you are, and you do get better every time that you write a
Hmm.
first draft. Each first draft becomes a little bit less horrid than the first draft of the of the previous
There's
novel.
a there's something tweetable right there. Every draft becomes less horrible.
Yes, every first draft gets a little less
Horrid,
horrid.
horrid. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
love it.
because you do improve, right? You
Mm,
improve in your writing craft, but being willing to delve into it and fixing it, and fleshing it out, and
hmm.
really getting into the revision process. That's where
Hmm.
writers really grow.
Yeah.
You really grow as a writer when you take it to a critique group and you hear what other authors have to say about, like, okay, well, this was confusing, or you could express
Hmm.
more here, or I would love to know more about blah, right?
Sure.
And going through a developmental editor. I mean, we have a love-hate relationship with developmental editors.
Sure. Sure. Oh, I mean, you're putting yourself out there, right? I mean, this is your baby. You've put your heart and soul into it.
Yes. And what you were saying, about this time with Amazon platform and with so many other options for
Hmm.
really being able to publish,
Right.
it is very easy. It's very easy to take a draft and, format it and put it out there. And so there is a grave responsibility on the author to look at yourself more critically, and
Hmm.
to make sure that what you are going to offer is a quality product, you know?
Right.
I think some readers get burned sometimes with, and they kind of shy away from indie authors because, they've gotten books that they pick up that, they just didn't do the work on the story. You wrote it and you
Sure.
stick it up there, and you really got to work it. It is work. It is fun, but it is work.
Well, the essayist Andy Rooney, and many people remember Andy Rooney, and in one of his essays, he took people through kind of his journey from using a manual typewriter to the electric typewriter to a word processor and finally a computer. And his assessment, and of course, he was a fabulous writer, but he said the computer didn't make writing better; it just made it easier.
Mhm,
And so
mhm.
now you can do your writing, but then take it to, as you say, into a group, and do those revisions. And then also at some point they say an author doesn't finish a book; it just escapes.
Yes. Yeah, yes. That is one of the beautiful things about working with a developmental editor.
Hmm.
Because when you have an editor who is working with your content, not just the copy editing is at the end, right? Once you've got the draft the way it's going to go out into the public, then you have a copy editor who will come in and check your punctuation, your typos, and all that good stuff. But the developmental editor, that person works with content. That person makes sure your plot holes have
Hmm.
been properly filled out, that
Yeah.
your characters are consistent, that there's transformation in your characters, that they're not stagnant and two-dimensional. All that's the person that really they come to a moment where you send it to them and they send it back and go, okay, let's do these final few things and then it's ready. And those are the words you're really waiting to hear,
Hmm.
right? And then it's ready. And then it's
Yeah.
ready to move forward and out the door. And those are beautiful words, because you can, as a writer, spend all of your life revising one book.
Hmm.
You
Sure.
really could.
Yeah.
You really could. So it's that process between you when you feel that it's there, and the developmental editor that you trust, that knows your writing, that says, okay, I think this one's ready. It's
Yeah.
ready. You
Yeah.
know, and that's when you have to just let it go.
That's some of the best advice I've heard. So many people say, well, if you want to write, then you got to, write every day for so much and set these goals, which is great, as far as getting the content put together. But if you really want to create something of that really represents the story that you're trying to tell, then work with this developmental editor.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, it is a very difficult thing because, of course, as artists, writers are artists, and
Hmm.
books are art, which is why, while reviews are good, it's nice to have reviews and to read what other people thought of the book. They're not really, to me, as a partaker of art, they're not really that important because you have people who love Picasso, who
Hmm.
stand there in front of a Picasso and go, "Oh my god," and they're like in
Yeah.
awe.
Sure.
And then there's people who don't, people who stand there and go, "I don't know about this guy. What in the world is this?" Because it's art. And so it's going to
Hmm.
speak to different publics differently.
Right. Yeah.
And the develop as an artist, it's hard to have a critique of your
Hmm.
work, right?
Sure.
To hand it to somebody that you trust to tell you where you need to explain more, where you have to flesh things out, what doesn't make sense. When you throw in a talking horse and they tell you, no, you can't have
Yeah.
it in this book, Fern.
Well, this is the thing about art in general is that really good art hits us at a level where we don't have the capacity for language. It's us on that emotional level, and that's why we have artists and poets and painters and sculptors and musicians, because they help take that emotion that we feel and turn it into something tangible. So when you read that great story and it hits you, maybe we don't have the capacity to actually go and form the words to say why we like it. It's just, well, it hits us at an emotional level.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And I mean, that's really the goal of any writer.
Mm-hmm.
You're hoping that when people read your book, that they're going to connect to the characters, that they're
Sure.
going to care about these characters and what they're facing. And in many ways, as a writer, you get a chance to put forth ideas,
Mm-hmm.
the way you view the world, in and the way that the world makes sense to you, what you feel is not right in the world, what you feel should be the right way to go, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you get to explore social issues and political issues and all kinds of, things that are part of the human condition, right?
Right.
Art is expressing the human condition, and as a
Mm-hmm.
writer, you get to explore that through the lives of made up characters.
Right.
And so it gives the reader a chance to go through things that they themselves will never go through,
Mm-hmm.
and face decisions that they're never going to face, and to ponder, would I have done what this character did? Would I have done it differently? You know,
Sure. Yeah.
and and it gives them the chance to explore these ideas.
Mm-hmm. This is, I just want to remind everyone we are live here on Amazon, or maybe you're watching in the replay with Fern Brady, and we're talking about her book, United Vidden, which is just an epic tale. And may I say, Homeresque in its scale, because you have created an entire universe. But it starts off, and we'll kind of get into this into the story here just a little bit and give people a taste, because we jump right into the action sequence from the very beginning.
Yes, well, I mean, that's kind of within the genre of it. It's a science fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you want to give the reader that sense of what the story will be about,
Yeah.
and what the world feels like. And so it was really important to me that the very first chapter and the very first scenes tell you right away, this is a science fantasy, because
Right.
I had actually begun the book during her birthday party. I actually had started the very first draft, was her birthday celebration, and she's coming forth with her beautiful ball gown, and they're doing the whole birthday and the betrothal, right? The surprise betrothal that her dad pulls, and everybody thought it was a historic fiction. Every time I would read it in a critique group,
Ah.
everybody had that sense. And so when suddenly there's a technology,
Mm-hmm.
she's flying away in a spaceship,
Right.
people were like, wait, what? You know,
Yeah.
because that first setting was, a monarchy, and they were having this ball gown, and so there was that feeling of a historic type piece.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what made me go, okay, maybe this isn't the place to start this book. I don't want my reader to think that it's one kind of fiction and then spring something different on them. So
Right.
so
Mm-hmm.
that's where we took it back to that morning, right, when she has to face off with the holographic image of
Right.
this creature that can't be killed. You
And
know.
this book was published last year, so in 2020. And so obviously you started writing this a while back before. But I just thought it was fascinating. We jumped right into this virtual battle, and obviously for the last year and a half, we've all been living virtually and fighting our own battles. It was really a fascinating. I was thinking, how prescient was this story that you wrote?
Yes, and it's a really cool that we have the virtual reality
Mm,
capabilities, but this is really more in the augmented reality technology that I'm presenting here,
yeah.
where she is interacting with the environment to an
Hmm.
extent, but at the same time, what she is battling is a holographic image, right? But
Right.
it's
Hmm.
visible to everyone who is enjoying the battle. and she's wearing this suit of armor that is a special metal that exists only in that universe, but it's got some elements of sensors that are built in. So when it interfaces with the system, if she gets hurt, right, it will start applying pressure in that area.
She's concerned about being bruised. I mean,
Yes.
physical, not just simulated.
Yes, because it's entirely possible because of the way that the technology works, and that we are really working towards that. Even now, I was reading an article about some fencing schools that I believe in Europe, that are trying out some of these kinds of suits that would allow you to have a little bit more realistic, fencing championships and things,
Yeah.
and that's a really, and for military purposes, it would be very, very interesting to add something like that for a training, because so you got shot. What does that actually do for your body, and how can you move afterwards, right? And so you got injured. What does that mean for this scenario that you're playing out? It was a really fun scene to explore, and of course, the whole goal is for her to last as long as she can, and to actually inflict damage on the opponent, because this is a creature that in real life, in her real life of the world of Thyraine's Galactic Wall, cannot be killed. It is
dreaded, right? The most dreaded in the universe.
The most dreaded in the universe. Nobody has been able to kill one. No, not even a party of warriors were able to bring one down. So everybody knows she's going to die, right? In this simulation, everybody already knows that. The question is, how long is she going to last, and how is she going to manage the battle, and how strategic are her moves? And that's what's being tested in the scenario. And so she actually does really well. She doesn't come in first, because I thought that would be just too cliche.
Right. And there's one of the things you talk about. So in science fantasy and science fiction and fantasy, we're able to explore, I'll say, personal and social and community issues in a way that's a little bit hands-off, right? So you're not talking about exactly what's going on, but we're able to explore some of these. And I'll say she's got a complicated relationship with her father.
Very, very. And in a way, it's one that sort of surprises her. It takes her by surprise. Because up until this point in her life, she really believed that her father was 100% okay with her being queen, that he supported her, that he truly believed she was going to be a great queen. And then the eve of her ascension, because in this world, when the heir turns 21, the sitting monarch steps down and allows the heir to ascend to the throne, and that way they have the benefit of the monarch's experience, which also encourages the monarch to wait for a while before producing an heir. But it's a really cool idea that I had, of like, why do we have to wait until the monarch dies? That's just tragic.
Right, the king is dead. Long live the king.
Long live the queen. But she's going to be the first queen. And she truly believes, she's gotten all the training. She fulfilled all the requirements, and she was successful. And yet he decides he's not going to abdicate.
Right. And this helps us kind of explore this disempowerment for women in society, and that she has no reason to believe that she's not getting that support, and yet at the last moment feels like, is it because she's a woman?
Yeah. And then as she begins to look at her life, and the interactions she's had with her dad, she begins to realize, her father has been relying on the fact that there's this principality on their
Mhm.
continent, and that the heir to that principality is a male. And Amiel, it is really her father's choice.
Mm.
you know and she begins to realize this. She had never noticed it, right? Because in her she grew up sheltered, and believing that she was going to be the queen.
Mhm.
And then she realizes, no, he's always been planning this. This has always been the route.
Yeah.
And so that really brings her confidence in who she is and who she thought she was.
And this is and again, just kind of exploring these issues is that whether you're a man or a woman, whatever gender you have, um, pleasing your parents, and in a lot of ways, many times the father, it's a lifelong challenge. And I have talked to people whose father has passed, and they still feel like they need to try to live up to some sort of expectations, or they never did live up to them, or something like that.
Yes, um approval by others,
Hmm.
especially one's parents, is
Yeah.
a humongous area that I think all human beings need to go through.
Hmm.
And I think that even in my own road,
Hmm.
there's so many times when your parents or your teachers or other people in your life that are influential, mentor type people, they try to tell you who they think you are.
Mm.
And sometimes they really analyzed you well, and they're really helping you, and they're really, but sometimes some of that is a reflection of who they would like for you to be.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
in their own things sometimes were what they would have liked to have done and they didn't get to do or whatever. They're
Hmm.
passing it on to the child. And
Sure.
so, yeah, figuring out that relationship of how do you accept that your parents are not perfect?
Mhm.
You know, Ho
Right, right,
it's that day is a hard day when you realize, my parents are not perfect.
right.
That's a tough
Yeah, I wanna
day.
remind everyone we are talking with Fern Brady, author of United Vidden, uh, an epic novel, creating a whole universe, and I'd like to kinda get into that a little bit too, because we are here live on Amazon, or maybe you're watching in the replay. In the carousel, I've highlighted United Vidden, not the only book that, Fern has written and, is available, so we've got those in the carousel as well. So I encourage you. Here's we're coming at. This is now. It's the first day of fall, right?
Mm.
Yes, we brand new season here, and great time to add this book, download it, get the whatever format works for you, or as a gift for somebody that is looking for something to read as the days grow a little bit shorter, and we're outside a little bit less. Just a great read, because you're going to be brought into this whole universe, and because you've created not only characters, but locations and planets and language. So let's talk a little bit about that, because again, as I said at the very beginning, this is very ambitious.
Yes. So Thyraine's galactic wall is where everything happens. And there are 51 planets in Thyraine's galactic wall that are part of the intergalactic alliance. And then there's like other planets that are, not officially part of the alliance, but they're colonized, or they're, resource planets and things like that.
Hmm.
So this world was born um, during the time when I was a sixth grade teacher.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I taught sixth grade for 15 years, and they're beautiful people, sixth graders. They're
Hmm.
quite unique, and one of the things in our curriculum in sixth grade is world cultures, and so part of that is developing understandings of geography and how geography affects the development of peoples and nations and the cultural elements of our world. And so to make that more tangible to my students, I would bring in the writing piece and the reading piece and kind of create a cohesive curriculum for them. And so we would create our own cultures. We would, create a brand new planet with continents and stuff. Every year, we created a new planet.
Uh-huh.
And, we would talk about the geographic features, and we would talk about, where are you going to put your lakes? Where are you going to put your rivers? Why are you putting them there? Why is your desert going to be over here? And how is that going to affect the different peoples of your world? And then we would create nations. We would talk about different government styles, and we would decide, okay, well, which nations on this made up world that we started at the beginning of the year, what nations are going to be, democracies, which ones are going to be, dictatorships, which ones are going to be monarchies, and we would go through and we would read mythology, and we would create mythologies for our planet. We would talk about warriors, knights, and samurai. We would do book clubs on knights versus samurais, and we would create our own cast of warriors and systems. And so over the course of the year, everything that we were studying, everything we were reading, we were also using to create stories and to create worlds. So during that time, that's where, I was modeling how to do that. And that's where Planet Jorn was born, and where Verena and Amiel's story began, and so many other stories that take place in the galactic wall because of all these different planets that I had to basically create as we were every year.
This is wonderful. This is I think we all wish we had you as our 6th grade teacher. And the best teachers that I've met, and my wife is also an educator, the best teachers that I've met, when they're given a curriculum, they look at it and say, well, this is a good guide, but then immediately start writing their own, which is apparently what you did. You wrote your whole process there.
Yes. I mean, because learning theory, and if you really understand how people learn, the best way for any learning to take place is for you to have connected themes, for your brain to be able to make connections so that it can hold on to information. And so having a very disjointed curriculum where, okay, we're teaching this for an hour, and now we're switching and we're teaching something totally different for another hour, and that doesn't really build those connections, and it's harder to retain information. So by taking what we had to study in our world cultures curriculum and say, well, how can I make this work with our goals for writing? And how can I make that work towards our literacy skills that we need to know? And it's bringing all of those pieces and forming a united theme, thematic connections across all of it. And that allowed them to really, when you're having to create your own planet, geographic features come alive. Because it's no longer just, okay, so we studied that this is what a volcano is. But now we're purposefully creating where our volcanoes are going to go. But you really need to understand how that actually works. You can't just randomly put a volcano in the middle of somewhere. Okay, what's the tectonic plate then?
Exactly. Right? Where's the subduction zones and so forth? Absolutely. Yeah.
So then what follows from that? And similarly with your rivers and lakes, you don't just randomly stick them someplace. So it makes it more concrete, because now, one of my favorite things to do, and the custodians did not like me for this, was have them bring in some clay, some modeling clay. And once you've made your map of where your different continental features are going to be for your made up planet, actually mold it. Actually create it with modeling clay. And, then you really get to understand what a fjord is, right? Because it's no longer just, okay, here's a picture of it. Now you're making it, you're creating it, And those kinds of connections, looking at um, warriors across history. When you really look at samurai and the knights of Europe, and you see just how similar so much of that is. And if you look at our modern, warriors, our modern military, and the culture of it, right? You begin to see these ideas of what makes a warrior, they're universal. And there may be some cultural differences here and there, but the universality of what is a warrior. And so I think that those kinds of things, bringing books like that to the classroom, gave the kids a much more concrete understanding of what we were studying.
Yeah, it gave them a goal. So they weren't just trying to memorize fjords and volcanoes and other geological type formations. They had an application for them. So they had a reason. That's a brilliant way to learn and to teach.
Yeah, because then from there, okay, now we got this world. Now we're going to create stories. Who lives here, and how do they make a living, and what do they wear? What's the climate? And what kinds of animals would they have in this space? And it just makes it more fun. One of the things I'll tell you, in the 15 years that I taught sixth graders, I never had a fight break out in my room, or people doing all kinds of silly things in my room. I mean, people were engaged. They were interested in what was happening. Even the most reluctant learners got interested in something. Along the way.
Well, this is great. I just want to remind everyone, we are talking with Fern Brady, author of United Vidden. It is in the carousel. Click on that link. Take a look at the book. Start reading it. You're definitely going to just go ahead and hit buy now because you're going to get caught up into this story. And we're just talking about, is it 51 planets that are a part of the
Alliance?
Yeah, of the Alliance. And so you leverage this whole time with being a sixth grade teacher for 15 years, and your students were creating worlds, peoples, geographies, kind of everything. Because one of the things that got me, when you first open your book, there is these maps, these hand-drawn maps. It's very, very Tolkien-esque, right? Yeah. That there's these maps, and immediately I'm, looking through, because I don't know, I just like that stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, where are we going to go here, and where are we going to go there? And it helps draw me into the story, because I want to bookmark that so I can just flip back and forth to see the map as the story progresses.
Yes. And so my drawing of the map is not that great. I'm gonna tell you that's not what you see in the book. Okay, you're not seeing my maps. You're seeing the beautiful work of Araceli Casas.
Okay.
Araceli Casas is a local. Well, now she's in San Antonio. She's an artist. She's a professional artist. She worked with me on my children's books. And when I told her, Araceli, I have these maps, and I've got to figure out a way to make them look like, good for the actual She's like, I could do it for you. Yeah. And so we went back and forth. I sent her my really crummy renditions. And she had to ask me, what in the world is supposed to be this? What is this line supposed to be for? And
wonderful.
Back and forth on, okay, what's going on with the features, and where is what. And then we were almost done with them, and I realized we needed another plateau because Amiel has to come at Anko from a plateau for the battle that he fights. And so I was like, okay, by the way, I just added a plateau over here. So she had to go in and add that. But it's really great to get to work with her, because she really brought to life in a very clear way, my world and where everything is. Um, I mean, because all I had was a bunch of squiggly lines that nobody would have understood.
And I just think that it adds to the complexity of the writing and the telling of the story, because if we were using Earth, I could go and look at existing maps and where rivers are and where the roads are and the coastlines and so forth. But you created that all from scratch, and um, and you were your own guide on that. I'm thinking it must have added a little bit to the complexity.
Well, it added to the fun of it, but it
Mm,
did
I like that.
complicate the story. It did
Hmm.
complicate the story because, the main story is Verena, and her challenges. She makes a horrible mistake, and she runs away, and then she has to come back and she has to reclaim her birthright.
Mm.
And she's basically trapped in the castle in a political battle to
Yeah, the palace intrigue, right?
yes.
Yes. Hmm.
And so here I have this rich, you know, world, this planet, and it's out there and it's full of awesome fun stuff, and my character is stuck in the castle. And
Mm.
so I ended up putting in um that she discovers that hidden in her mother's jewel box is a vial of gold liquid,
Mm.
and it does something. But her mother died when she was too young, and so she hadn't imparted that information. It's only known by the ladies in her family, and so she doesn't know what it is.
Mm.
And one of the castle knights that was really just a farm boy when the war began, and he got lucky and he impressed Amiel in one of the battles, and he got
Uh-huh.
knighted. So here's this young, very naive, knight, and he she convinces him to go on this quest. We need to find Rajin Horsef, who is missing,
Hmm.
and he's the one who can tell her what the vials of what that gold liquid can do, you know. And so then that quest is my opportunity to show you the world, because the
Uh,
knight has to go out and he has to go find the guy, and so he goes on the
mm.
journey, and you get to see the prairie, and you get to see the remains of the temple that got destroyed, and you get to have
Yeah.
adventures out there, and he crosses the desert. And so the map caused me to have to complicate the story with that, because to be honest, when I first started writing it and I added the gold liquid, I had no clue what the gold liquid would do.
Yeah.
I mean, for the longest time, I just
Mm.
didn't even know. I just it existed. I had no clue what is Rajin?
I
What is
love it. I
this
love that.
gonna? Yeah, I mean, we just didn't know. I was like, okay, one of these days I'll figure out what it does.
So in writing, you get to go through your own journey of discovery.
Very much, very much. Sometimes like that, you throw something in and
Hmm.
you're not 100% certain how that's going to actually be.
Right.
And it wasn't until like randomly one morning I woke up and I thought, I know what it does. I know exactly what
Ah.
it does. And I had the whole image of the scene of when she activates them.
Hmm.
And so I just started writing that random scene.
So
And
people want to people want to get the book, add it to your cart. It's in the carousel, uh, so we don't want to give anything away.
no, no, no.
You'll want to discover this. Take your own journey on this one. Read the book. Give it as a gift. I can't think of a better gift at this time than books. And
Mhm,
in a lot of ways, stories like this help us explore issues, but they also just let us escape.
mhm.
And I think that's because it's a world, but it's not our world.
Yes.
But it's a complicated world, but it's a beautiful world. There's all the intrigue, but um, redemption.
Yes. Yes. And I really like happy endings. I'm
Hmm.
not George R. R. Martin. I'm not going to kill off everybody.
So we won't get Charlton Heston in this movie. No.
Well, I would love Charlton Heston. He's like awesome. I think isn't he has he passed away? Is he still alive?
No,
I
he's
don't remember.
passed. Yeah,
He's
he,
passed. Yeah. But he would be, in his prime. I mean, as Moses and stuff. I mean, he was gorgeous.
oh sure, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But I mean, for me, it's important that books give you hope. I grew up
Hmm.
on tales of the Knights of the Round Table,
Hmm.
and other stories of valor and your word and honor,
Hmm.
and fighting for those who couldn't fight for themselves. These were the stories that my father loved
Hmm.
and that he would tell us. And so it really, and to me as a writer, I want to put that into the next generation of stories. That you can come back from whatever mistakes you've made.
Hmm.
It's going to cost you, but you can make it back. If you're willing to pay the price,
Sure.
and that honor matters. Integrity matters. Your
Hmm.
word matters.
Yeah.
Uh, and that there is always hope. No matter how
Hmm.
dark it may seem, there's always hope
Yeah.
for a brighter future.
Well, and I think those that love us, truly love us, will bring us back.
Yes,
Allow
love.
us to come. Allow us.
Love is a very powerful thing. I think love is the most powerful force in the universe,
Mm.
and it does have the power to transform,
Hmm.
you. And if you let it.
Exactly. Yeah, and you have to be willing to step forward, and that's that is hard, right? I mean, I think a lot of people suffer needlessly because they haven't been willing to step forward and let those that love them.
Hmm. Yeah, and love is a sacrifice. It's always a sacrifice.
Sure. Yeah.
There's always service in love,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I think sometimes people want to be loved
Hmm.
without loving,
Sure.
and you have to learn to love,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and that always love always costs,
In
but it's
the
worth
in
it.
the King James translation of the Bible, that word love is often translated as charity, but I think we could just as easily substitute sacrifice
Mm-hmm.
for that. And
Yeah.
so you say the greatest of these is sacrifice, right? The greatest of these is love,
That's right.
charity, love, sacrifice.
Well, and I heard one of the teachers that I really love and follow is Joyce Meyer, and she once was talking about how on Jesus's last days,
Hmm.
he knew that he was going to die within a few hours,
Yeah.
and he taught them a final lesson, and the final lesson was that he, as their master, was going to wash their feet, that
Yes.
no matter how great you are, the most
Hmm.
important thing you can do is service to others.
Yeah.
You're never above service of others.
Hmm.
And she was saying, this is the most important lesson that we can learn as humans, because he knew he was going to die, so he was giving them the most important lesson. Right
Right.
before you die, you tell people the most important thing, right? You don't waste words in that moment.
Yes. Yes.
And that is love. Love is service. We're
Hmm.
here to love one another, to love God and to love one another. And that means you're serving others
Hmm.
and using the talent and the skills that God gave you to uplift other people and to be of
Sure.
service.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. Hey, we're gonna wind down here probably in the next 10 minutes, and so I just want to tell people that we've got Fern's book, United Vidden, in the carousel. Click on it, take a look, download it, buy it, give it as a gift. Um, Epic tale, as I said, Homer-esque in its creation of an entire universe. Uh, all these planets, all these peoples, these cultures, the interactions, the exploration of current issues, but through this story. But it's not the end of the story. You've got more coming. So when you read this book and you're just thinking, I want some more, there's more coming. Tell us what's coming up, Fern.
Yeah, so this book is, step one in the journey, where Verena and Amiel are trying to unite their continent, but their continent is in danger. The Gortiv are arising. They're trying to reclaim the lands that were taken from them because they were the original denizens of Jorn, but they're being stirred up by some other darker forces. And so book 2, Gortiv Offensive, is going to be releasing in April of 2022. And so that's coming up. I'm doing the edits on that right now. So it's coming. And then, of course, book 3 will kind of bring the whole area of Verena and Amiel's life sort of all the way around. And then there's, their kids, and then their grandkids, and once you create a world and a universe, you can just keep going forever.
There's going to be more. There's going to be more to come. So I encourage people to get involved in this, and so you've got that. I mean, I'm just thinking that's just a ton of work coming up for you to put these stories out. But I'm thinking that you probably have other projects going on as well. You're probably involved in other things. What else, Fern, have you got going on?
Well, I actually have a small graphic novel collaboration that I'm working with Rosa Maria Garza. She's another amazing illustrator. She is hopefully going to get her own comic book out soon. She's been working on it for a bit. It's an Aztec tale. But our collaboration is called Mr. Landon's Library. Okay. And Mr. Landon's Library is an enchanted library in the middle of nowhere, Texas. And but unfortunately, if you're not careful with the magic books, they can accidentally kill people.
Oh.
And so
yes, be careful.
You have to be real careful. So the first volume in this graphic novel is called New Beginning. And it's out already. We published it last year. And we are finishing up the drawings for the second volume that is going to be coming out, I believe, in November or December of this year. We're going to be putting it out. And it's an interesting project because you have the graphic novel, which has the beautiful drawings by Rosa with the tail. And then in the back of the book, we actually put in the novella. So you get my novella, the writing pieces that kind of flesh it out a little bit more, and you have the graphic novel with her beautiful drawings in the book together. And so we're probably going to do the same thing with this. It was just a random crazy little story that I started writing as a blog, and she was so into it as well, and so she was like, it would be a great graphic novel. And I'm like, if only I could draw. And she's like, I can draw. So I was like, hey, okay, let's do it. And it's a lot of fun to work with her and to see my words take form in the novel through her drawings.
Fern, your story is very inspiring and encouraging because we have this vision of writers huddled in a room, cloistered away, tapping away at some keyboard, but your story here is all very collaborative. That it isn't just an isolated project.
No, I really think that the most successful authors are those that have a good team of people, a good, strong community. My process involves being involved in critique groups. These are 8 or so people on Tuesday night and a different 8 on Thursday nights. And I take my work and I read it and they give me some feedback. They give me some ideas. I have a whole group of people that I met, beautiful writers of a variety of kinds of writing that, we meet once a month in our little writing intensive, and, my developmental editor, and all these, the community part is, I
Mhm.
think, what really makes you a stronger writer and what makes a really strong book, because at the end of the day, it isn't just me who read it and thinks it's good. It's me and a whole host of other writers, some within my genre and some without.
Mhm.
Some who work with memoir or who work with poetry, who don't really read in this genre, and those inputs have been really great because, since they're not familiar with the genre,
Mhm.
uh, what trips them up, what makes it harder for them. So then I, as a writer, can help those who might pick it up who are not 100% into science fantasy, to
Mhm.
make it a little more accessible to them, you
Yeah.
know, um, while still being, while still honoring my genre and those fans for whom it really is written, for the people who like Tolkien and George R. R. Martin and Star Wars and Dune. You know, um,
Mhm.
the Doctor Who Online reviewed it recently, and they kind of compared it to the Dune type universe,
Yeah.
which I
Mhm.
think was like a great honor that I
Oh,
they.
Frank Herbert, he did the same thing, right? He created just an amazing universe with all these different cultures,
And
and
Tolkien and stuff. I mean, these are
mhm.
these are the greats, the literary greats that we're following their
Sure.
footsteps, and we're standing on their shoulders and taking the next steps forward.
Yeah. Friend of mine just read Dune for the first time, and it's just it's wonderful when you can share this kind of a story,
Mhm.
and kind of climb into that universe. And so as we wind down again, I just encourage everyone, buy the book, maybe buy several copies and share with your friends, and create your own little community around exploring through the universe and through the story. And when volume 2 comes out, end of April in 2022, you'll have something else to look forward to. And creating community around books, around these stories, is a great thing to do. You can do it face to face, you can do it virtually, um, but buy United Vidden. That's my admonition for the day.
Yeah, and then definitely, like, if there's any readers out there that do book clubs, and if you want the author to visit, I'd be happy to do that. And also, check out the Houston Writers Guild. There's a
Mhm.
lot of great writers that are a part of that. Check out Inklings Publishing. We have a lot of amazing authors as well, and
Yeah.
variety of tales. So there's plenty of wonderful work out there. And if you are a reader, I'm just going to do a little plug for Book
Please.
Lovers Delight. Okay, because Book Lovers Delight is a subscription box program that brings great indie authors to
Mm.
readers, because sometimes it's hard to know which ones are going to be good, which ones are going to have been, well developed, not just they wrote it quick and stuck it up there, and so Book Lovers Delight does do a stringent process of vetting these books, and you get, once a month, you get a box with a book and special swag from the author, plus other little goodies. So it's a really fun program.
So definitely, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you if they want to maybe bring you into their book club, or if they're a budding author that wants some join some of these groups and maybe talk to you as your publishing company?
Sure. So the best way is if you go to my website, which is fernbrady.com, right? Fernbrady.com. There's a contact page, and it has my email, and it has different ways, my phone, ways to contact me. And you could just even Google me, Fern Brady. There's two Fern Bradys that pop up when you Google, and one of them is a Canadian comedian.
Okay.
That's not me. And then there's me. So
So there you
yeah,
go.
just look for the lady with
So
the
either
purple
Fern Brady that you get into your book club, so buy multiple copies, share with your friends, get a we get have Fern Brady come, and then have Fern Brady come. You guys are going to have a great time.
Yeah. Thank you so much
Fern,
for having me.
I've had so much fun talking with you today and exploring the universe with you. Thank you for taking the time. And any last words that you would like to share? Things that people need to know about United Vidden, about you, or anything else important?
Well, I just want to say thank you for letting me come on your show and inviting me. I had a great time. And yeah, just buy the book. I mean, it's fun. Worst case scenario, if you don't like it, give it to somebody else.
All right. Well, I'm going to put you in the green room, hang out there for a moment, and we have been talking live here on Amazon with Fern Brady and talking about United Vidden, her book, and a lot of other great things. She does have a whole universe, great characters exploring important concepts in the book, but it's just fun. You're going to get immersed and you're going to want more, and there is more coming. So go ahead and click on United Vidden, take a look at it, go down and click on Fern's author page and make sure and follow her so that when new publications come out, you'll be alerted and you'll be able to get those right away. But we're going to wind this one down. D. Scott here on Amazon Live, or maybe you're watching in the replay. Have a fabulous day.